Can God really know everyone, everywhere in the world? Here, let me show you something. When I have questions like this, I like to look in the Bible. The Bible is God's true message to us about himself. Let's open the Bible to the book of Mark, where it talks about how God's son Jesus knew something no one else could have known. Let's take a look. Jesus healed a woman. One day, while Jesus was traveling, a large crowd gathered. The crowd followed Jesus, moving in all around him. A woman who had suffered from bleeding for the last 12 years was in the crowd. She had spent all her money on doctors, but they were not able to help her. Instead, her bleeding became worse. The woman had heard about Jesus. She came up behind Jesus and touched his clothing, saying, "If I could just touch his clothes, I will get better." Instantly, her bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she was healed. Immediately, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" His disciples said to him, "You see the people crowded in around you, and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" Okay, let's take a second and talk about what's happening here. See, a woman was very sick. She had looked for help from doctors for a long time, but they couldn't do anything to help her. So when she heard about Jesus, she knew that he would be able to help because Jesus is God's son. He has all the same power that God has. That means he knows everything, and he can do things that only God can do. The woman believed that if she could just get to Jesus, she could be healed. And she was. And in that moment, Jesus knew something had changed because he felt power go out of him. He knew this woman had touched him and had been healed. So why would he ask who touched him? Great question, right? Let's keep reading and find out. Jesus looked around the crowd to see who had touched him. Filled with fear and trembling, knowing what happened to her, the woman fell down before Jesus and told him everything. "Daughter," Jesus said to her, "your faith has saved you. Go in peace. You are healed." Cool, right? Jesus knew everything about the woman who was sick. He knew that she had touched him, but he wanted to bring attention to her faith. There were lots of people around Jesus who were probably bumping into him as they walked. But this woman was different because she believed so much in God's power. She knew she could reach out and touch Jesus' clothes and she would be healed. She believed that Jesus is God's son, and it was her faith in Jesus that healed her. Just like Jesus knew everything about this woman, God knows everything about everyone, everywhere, including us. He knows when we need help, and he even knows what we need most, a relationship with God. But there is something that has broken this relationship, and that's called sin. And we all sin. Sin is when we choose to do what we think is best instead of following what God says is best. And sin is like this huge sickness that we can't heal on our own. But God sent his son Jesus for us. Jesus came to take the punishment for our sin. So when we respond to him in faith, he saves us. He heals our broken relationship, and he makes us new. And everyone who believes in Jesus can have a relationship with God.
Jerusalem's wall was rebuilt. Nehemiah was an Israelite, one of God's chosen people. Nehemiah lived in another land that was not the land of Israel, and he had an important job. Nehemiah worked for the king. One day, some men came from Nehemiah's hometown, the city of Jerusalem. Nehemiah asked the men how the people of Jerusalem were doing. The men told Nehemiah that they were in trouble because the wall around Jerusalem was broken and the gates to the city had been burned. Nehemiah was very sad to hear this news. For many days, Nehemiah fasted, which means he chose not to eat food. Instead, he chose to think about and pray more to God. The king saw that Nehemiah was very sad and asked what was wrong. Nehemiah said, "The city where my people live is in trouble. The gates have been burned and the wall is broken. May I go and rebuild the wall?" The king agreed and sent Nehemiah to Jerusalem with the supplies he needed to rebuild the wall. Nehemiah arrived in Jerusalem and began to rebuild the wall with the help of God's people. This made their enemies mad. They made fun of God's people and made a plan to stop and hurt them. Nehemiah spoke to God's people to encourage them. He told them that God knows every situation and that he would help them. They started rebuilding the wall again and completed the wall in just 52 days.
Amazing! Nehemiah had a big problem, but God knew him and helped Nehemiah build the wall. God knows us too. No matter how hard something may be, God knows us and knows how to help us.
Do you see something? It's our super clue. Do you remember what to do? Help, please. Great job. Before you learn to tie your shoes, you need help to tie them. Learning to tie shoes can be hard, and you may feel upset and want to give up. Instead of giving up, you can ask someone to help you. God knows everything that happens, even when we need help. When we are upset or want to give up, we can remember that God knows us up, down, and all around. He knows every situation, and He is here to help us.